Hi, welcome to my channel if you're a new viewer. My videos are based around Weidmuller's automation products. Welcome back if you're an existing subscriber. Today I'd like to talk about OPC-UA communications between Weidmuller's range of controllers or gateways and ProconWeb HMI SCADA. Just as a bit of background, if you're not familiar, Weidmuller Controllers use Codesys. The Weidmuller controller is a Linux-based PC running a soft PLC version of Codesys on board. UOS is the term given to the Codesys-based controllers in the Weidmuller range, and ProconWeb is the name of the software package we use with our HMIs and controllers. So the related hardware, as of today, October 25, we have 3 controllers, a UC20 WL2000, and then we have an M3000 and an M4000 controller, the higher end products. And then we have 2 IoT gateways. So the IoT gateways have no I/O on board, they just use communications to talk to remote I/O, HMIs, etc. With the Codesys development software, you can use version 3.5 Service Pack 18 onwards. I'm using Service Pack 20, and the Codesys SL runtime, which is software installed on the actual controller or gateway, is 4.12.01, and I'm using UOS firmware 2.20, but there is also a later one, 2.21. I'd suggest the first step is to open up a Codesys project and create a very simple application. So let me do that now. So there is my project. As you can see, it doesn't get much simpler. I've just got one POU in use, which is written in continuous flowchart, and I'm just using 2 inputs, putting them into an add block and getting a result. So the first step is to now create a symbol configuration where we then access the tags or variables we want to share with the HMI. So if we go to Application and go to Add Object, and then we add symbol configuration, and we can make sure it says support OPC-UA features, which it does by default, so really you should just go add here, and then you pick the tags you want to share with the HMI. They can be global variables, they can be POU variables, and they can be like system variables inside the controller. But all I want is in here. I can just click those individually, or just tick that box and select them. Simple as that. My controller is powered up, so then I need to build that. Okay, I would then go to build there, generate code, and build again. And then just make sure your project is saved. So if you notice, my project file is called M3000 OPC-UA because I'm using an M3000 controller. Save that project. So the next step is to look at how you actually set up OPC-UA within Codesys. We go into the Device tab, and here is where you see the gateway and how you connect to the controller. So you should be familiar with that. So what you now need to do in here is go to Device and change Runtime Security Policy. So click in there. You may or may not need to change it. You need to decide. So encryption, do you want to apply encryption to your communications? And that's purely down to how secure you want the connection to be. If you want it to be very secure, then you want encryption. If you're not bothered, then you can leave with no encryption or optional. So I'm going to stick with optional, and then current policy, all types of application code accepted. So I'm going to leave that as all as well, and I'm going to apply this enforce user management. Okay, but I'm not going to allow anonymous login. Anonymous login is a little bit unsecure really, so maybe during development that's okay, but not in the real world. So okay that. Just to highlight at this point, I've got an active connection to the controller, that's important, but I'm not actually online with Codesys. There's like 2 layers of access. There's access in the controller's security environment and access in the project. Okay, so next step is to go into security screen. So if we go to view, security screen, this view now appears. And here you can see certificates which allow connections between devices. So by default, a new controller out of the box, you should see UCU, and there'll be a date it was valid from. So that's probably when I first turned this controller on, February this year, and it's valid for 10 years. So this is something quite important, is the validity period for the certificate. If you make it too short, for example a week or 6 months, then 6 months after you've sent your project out on a machine, it will stop communicating. So give this validation period a longer time scale, for example 10 years. Probably a good idea to keep a record of this for every project you work on. So at the moment I've got own certificates, I've got trusted certificates, nothing in there, untrusted certificates and quarantine certificates, and nothing in there. If you click on here, device, you see these options that you can have. I want OPC-UA, so I click on that and I create a new certificate on the device. Here it is. So number of days. So I've set 3,650, 10 years. Okay, that. And now it's creating a certificate and storing it on the controller. Okay, that's done. So just to make that a little bit larger so you can see it. So you don't really need to know any of this apart from the fact that it's OPC-UA server and it's for an M3000 controller. And then you have the valid, when it started, today, and it expires in 10 years, and there's a thumbprint for it. Okay, so that's that part done now. So I would suggest we now go online and download that project. Log in. If you can, I always log in with online changes rather than a complete download. And just to say, you could do an update boot application. So in other words, there's a backup of the project stored on the controller as well as the running application code. That's your choice. Not a bad idea though, to have a backup. Okay, so it's just generating code and initializing, and project's in run, everything's green, everything's happy. So now we can switch to ProconWeb development software and try and create a connection to read these symbols. There's my project, and notice it's what we call an embedded system. Just give that a minute to finish building. Okay, so all I want to do now is go into process connection, process variables, driver selection, OPC-UA v2 we're on today, and I don't need to create anything here actually. I can just OK that and go to PLC import, and it lists the different drivers I've ticked, but I've only got that one ticked, so that's it. Click on there, then you point to the URL, the IP address of the controller. What we're doing now in the OPC-UA driver import is associating a link between the ProconWeb software and the Codesys controller. So here we have to enter opc.tcp:// the IP address of the controller, followed by port 4840, which is the port used by OPC-UA. And then we have to put our username and password, which will be unique, so yours won't be the same as mine. So we try and connect ProconWeb to the controller. And as I expected, there's an error. That's because we need to associate a certificate for ProconWeb within Codesys. So it's failed, but if we now switch back to Codesys and we go into quarantine certificates that, if you remember, previously was empty, we now have a ProconWeb certificate because that's been created as the connection was attempted to be made. And if we look at the validation period, it's valid from now until 20 years from today, plenty of time. Okay, so all we need to do now is move that into trusted. So just grab it, move to trusted certificate. Quarantine certificate is now empty because we've literally moved it into here. That's that part done. So again, switch back to ProconWeb. Same information still there. Hit connect. And there we have it. We now have a connection to that controller. So we have a permanent link. If I click in here, there's quite a lot of information we can get to, but all I want to do is look at the tags within the program, the POU. So if I click in device set, into the controller, resources, application, programs, POU, and there they all are, and I can click them one at a time, or if I want them all, just click POU and it picks them all. Just be careful what you do in there, because if you click here, device set, it's going to try and bring all this information in, which is possibly hundreds of variables, and it's going to take a while and possibly will fall over. So just bring in what you need to. So as I said previously, they can be individual POUs or they can be global variables. So once you're happy that's what you want, hit apply, and then here read symbols. There they all are. Import now. Okay, so you can highlight them all like that. Right click on the text itself and say import now, and then you bring them all in one go. There they all are. So if I now go to system variables, then back to process variables, there they are. So they're associated with driver OPC-UA v2, and that is the path, and that's the tag name in0 in1 result. Okay, so that's it. We've brought the tags in fine. I've now switched back to Codesys because there's one more thing I need to do before we can communicate between the HMI and the controller. So in Codesys, we're back in the security screen. To go to quarantine certificates, you'll see this Weidmuller GTI. So Weidmuller GTI basically is the part of the company behind ProconWeb. We need to do what we did earlier and move that quarantine certificate into trusted certificate. Okay, so I go to trusted certificate now. We now have ProconWeb OPC-UA, and then we have Weidmuller GTI. And notice if I look at the valid until dates, there, 20 years for that and 50 years for that, so we got plenty of capacity there. So I like to check the Codesys environment is running on the controller. Go into apps. So if I start off at the home page, go into US Control Center, go into apps, and it defaults to App Manager, and check these are running. Most importantly for us at this point is Codesys Control SL is running, which is the Codesys environment, and ProconWeb Embedded Systems is running, and they are. So everything's happy there. Again, go back to Codesys just to show you again. So in here I've got ProconWeb and GTI in trusted, and in own certificates I've got OPC-UA server and UCU. I've created a little project in ProconWeb development environment, so I've just got two integers, add them together and you get a result. Project environment, so these are obviously tied to the tags we've just created. Create project environment, target system. Sorry, let me just disconnect. So as you come into it for the first time, you go to create. That like builds the project. Then target system. You can type in the IP address, scan the network, hit OK, project environment, connect. So it's connected to the actual IP address of the controller. Obviously my PC is on the same network. Project download. Close that window down. Hit completed OK. Go back to the web server of the controller. Go into ProconWeb embedded service. And if you want to, at this point, you can go check for updates. And as long as the web controller's got access to the public internet, it will check and tell you if there's an update, and there isn't. I'm using the latest version of ProconWeb app 6.911. Okay, so if I go open here, and it does actually say default password is Procon, log in, name of the project 6.91, 8 tags, because there's actually 5 tags that's pre-created and my free tags. So let me just show you that. Go back to here, process variables, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So they're 5 tags that are always in every new ProconWeb project. They're just like internal tags, and they're my free that I've imported over the OPC-UA. So here I can just click into go to HMI, and there's my project, and if I put some numbers in here, so 4 plus that goes in here, so I'm getting a 4 and then put a 5 there, and I'm getting a 9. So it's communicating, everything's working fine. And notice ProconWeb embedded systems use, to access the visualization of ProconWeb, they use the IP address of the controller, port number 65300, which is different to the port used by HMI SCADA projects, so be aware of that. But the simple way to get in there is to get in there through the ProconWeb embedded system button. Okay, if I just click here, just to show you, there are other projects that have been previously installed, and it shows you which one's loaded, and I could just go here and say load that project if I want. What else can I show you? Clients. So clients here relates to how many clients you have access to with your ProconWeb license, runtime license, and I have access to 1, and I'm using 1. So the HMI client in plain English is the browser. So if I tried to open another browser window and point to the same device, it would complain because I'd be trying to use 2 clients and I've only got the availability of using 1. So in here, home, I can go to services. So if you have a problem and this product's not working properly, you can go into services and just double check all your services are running. Go into licenses, and that's quite useful. I'm running a demo license of ProconWeb Embedded Systems Runtime, and I get an hour's worth of access on the demo license. So that's telling me I've got 36 minutes left. And if I click in here, it's saying I'm using 3 tags and 4 drivers are available and 1 client's connected. So that's not the number of drivers I'm using, it's what's available. And also quite important is here, if I go edit, I can use the demo license, or I can use what we call a Webu code meter license, which is the default, which basically means I'm using a software license. So in ProconWeb embedded system, you would have to purchase a license, and you'd use Webu as the method of applying the license. I'm going to do another video explaining that, but I'm not going to cover it today. But at the moment I don't have a license, so I'm just running on the demo. But it's important to realise, if you're on demo license, and it should be on the Webu license, click in here and change it and save it. Also in here you have event log. If you've got a problem, it will be highlighted in red normally. So you get messages, but they are a little bit truncated. So what you might want to do is go into here and download a log file. And there it is here. Open that file. and that shows you a log, and you can see you've got more text here. It's an extended log file. So if you have a problem, you might need to send that to Weidmuller to help them identify what the issue is. We've set up OPC communications in Codesys, and we've linked it across to ProconWeb embedded system, and we've got a visualization all working. So I hope you found that useful, and please like and subscribe, and I look forward to seeing you again with the next video. Thanks for watching.